Karl Lagerfeld once fired a model for gaining 2 pounds, not 2 kilograms, 2 pounds.
Karl was he was able to navigate all these different houses, sometimes simultaneously.
The girl broke down crying in front of 200 people at a Chanel fitting. Karl's response: "Tears don't make you thinner, darling. But here's what makes this absolutely insane. That same model became one of the highest paid supermodels in the world after Karl destroyed her career. Because Karl Lagerfeld wasn't just cruel for the sake of it. He was building something that had never existed before.
The most glorious, inspiring, revelatory time.
A fashion empire where fear, genius, and absolute control created billions of dollars. What you're about to discover isn't just the story of a fashion designer. It's the story of how one man weaponized creativity, turned cruelty into currency, and built a $15 billion empire by understanding a simple truth. In fashion, being feared is more powerful than being loved.
I think actually working and being a friend of Karl, there wasn't really a difference.
For over 6 decades, this white-haired genius in dark sunglasses controlled what 7 billion people wanted to wear, who would be famous, and whose careers would be destroyed with a single cutting remark. Karl Lagerfeld didn't just design clothes, he designed desire itself. Today, I'm revealing the 3 psychological weapons Karl used to build his empire. You'll discover how he transformed Chanel from a dying brand into a $15 billion powerhouse, why his cruelest insults became fashion legend, and the shocking truth about what his death revealed about an industry built on beauty and brutality. By the end of this story, you'll understand how Karl proved that authenticity matters less than impact, and why being memorable is more valuable than being likable. This is the untold story of fashion's most feared dictator. Karl Otto Lagerfeld was born in Hamburg, Germany in 1933, though he spent his entire life lying about when and where. He claimed to be born in 1938, sometimes 1935, and occasionally hinted at being Swedish or French. This wasn't vanity. It was the first lesson in the Karl Lagerfeld playbook: mystery creates power. His parents were cold, distant, and obsessed with perfection. Love was conditional on achievement. Affection was earned through excellence. Failure was met with devastating criticism. Young Karl learned early that the world was divided into 2 types of people: those who create beauty and those who consume it. He decided he would be a creator, no matter the cost. At 16, he moved to Paris with nothing but talent, ambition, and an unshakable belief that he was destined for greatness. In 1954, at just 21 years old, Karl won a design competition and landed a job with Pierre Balmain, one of Paris's most prestigious fashion houses. But Karl wasn't content to be an apprentice. Within months, he was critiquing his boss's designs and making it clear that he considered himself an equal, not an employee. This arrogance should have destroyed his career. Instead, it launched it. Fashion, Karl realized, wasn't about humility. It was about confidence so absolute that it became magnetic. He began developing the persona that would make him famous, the sharp-tongued genius who treated fashion like warfare. Here's where Karl's story takes its first dark turn. He discovered that cruelty could be a competitive advantage. While other designers tried to please everyone, Karl made people desperate to please him. By 1965, Karl had joined Fendi, a small Roman leather goods company, and began his first experiment in total brand transformation. At Fendi, Karl didn't just design handbags, he reinvented luxury itself. But here's Karl's genius move. He proved that a designer's personality could be as valuable as their designs. Karl began giving interviews where he was quotably outrageous. He made pronouncements about fashion and society designed to shock and generate headlines. He understood something crucial: controversy creates conversation, and conversation creates sales. The numbers were staggering. Under Karl's direction, Fendi's revenue grew from $10 million to over $500 million in 2 decades. But Fendi was just the warm-up. In 1983, Karl accepted the challenge that would define his legacy: reviving Chanel, a brand that had been dying since Coco Chanel's death in 1971. The fashion world thought he was insane. How could a German man understand French femininity? Karl's answer was typically audacious: "I don't want to be Coco Chanel. I want to be Karl Lagerfeld at Chanel." Karl's cruelty wasn't random, it was systematic. He understood that fear creates respect, and respect creates power. By being unpredictably vicious, he ensured everyone was constantly trying to please him, constantly afraid of becoming his next target. His treatment of staff was legendary for its harshness. Assistants were fired for minor infractions. Models were dismissed for gaining a pound. Anyone who disagreed was immediately banished. But here's what made Karl's cruelty effective. It was mixed with genuine brilliance. People endured his abuse because working with him could transform careers. Karl understood something crucial. In the modern world, authenticity is less important than consistency. He created a character called Karl Lagerfeld and played it so perfectly that it became impossible to separate the man from the myth. Every aspect of his appearance was calculated. He claimed to drink only Diet Coke and champagne, sleep 3 hours nightly, and never eat carbohydrates. Whether true didn't matter. They became part of the Karl Lagerfeld mythology, and mythology was more powerful than reality. Karl's genius wasn't just creative, it was strategic. He understood that luxury wasn't about exclusivity anymore. It was about aspiration. He created products at every price point, from $5,000 handbags to $50 keychains, ensuring everyone could own a piece of the Chanel dream. He licensed his name to everything from Diet Coke to hotels. At his death, Karl was earning over $50 million annually. The most impressive number, Karl generated over $2 billion in revenue annually across all his brands and partnerships. But Karl's success came with a personal cost. Despite his wealth and fame, he was increasingly isolated, surrounded by employees, but lacking genuine friendships. His most famous relationship was with Jacques de Bachet, a French aristocrat whose death from AIDS-related complications in 1989 changed Karl forever. Karl built his empire on a simple principle. People will pay more for products created by someone they fear and respect than someone they simply like. He turned his personality into his most valuable asset, his cruelty into a competitive advantage, and his mystery into marketing gold. The fashion industry after Karl is different, less cruel perhaps, but also less magical. He was the last of the fashion dictators, the final emperor of an industry he helped create and ultimately transcended. Karl Lagerfeld's story proves that genius and cruelty can coexist, that success and loneliness often go hand in hand, and that sometimes the most influential people are those who remain forever unknowable. What do you think about Karl's legacy, genius or monster? Let me know in the comments, because the debate about Karl Lagerfeld will continue long after his empire has faded into fashion history.